welcome back to the Saints. We are in another segment yet today, and we have with us another brother. Awesome.
Fantastic.
And so, in case you forgot from the last half hour, my name is RC.
And this is Andrew.
This is Tyrone.
This is Allison.
This is Carrie.
And this is Bridget.
And I'm Mark.
Hey, Mark.
That actually worked. Marc Hardy is with us. Woo!
Awesome.
He's in studio, so people can actually point at him and give him cues. When it's his turn
Say
to
something,
talk.
Mark. Come on.
It's your turn.
All right, so hello, Marky Mark.
Yeah, you're
Yep.
in studio with us today because you live...
In Austin.
Whoa!
Yeah.
What? In Austin?
Yes, sir.
What's that all about?
Well, just moved here a couple months ago.
Yes, he decided to join our crazy.
That is about the best way of putting it.
Well, okay, so before we get to that, take us back, if you would, on a field trip. A field trip through your life.
Well, I was born as a small child.
At least you think so.
I know. That's true.
There's pictures.
No, well, I grew up in a Christian home and basically was at church, every time the doors were open. And, then in high school, I kind of felt a call to ministry. And so I went off to Christian college, got my degree there. Then
What was your degree in?
Christian ministry, minor in youth ministry.
Sure.
And then I then didn't really feel prepared to do anything, like jump right into ministry. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what to do, so I'll do more school. So I went to went to seminary. And and so while I was in seminary, well, I guess before I got there, I kind of just voiced my uncertainty to the Lord and just said, Lord, take me or show me where you want me to serve, and I'll do what you want me to do. And then went into seminary, and that's when things started changing, surprisingly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what was it that changed?
Yeah.
What did you start noticing?
Just different things that I'd seen over time, or just things that just didn't quite sit right. And then the denomination I was a part of never really had a coherent ecclesiology, and so I was, I found one from the person who actually started it, and I was like, why aren't we doing this? And then just stumbled across a book, I think it was for one of my classes, and the only conclusion that I could come to after reading is that the most effective way to disciple people was in the house church setting. Mm-hmm. And so I started investigating that, tried to start one myself, and it crashed and burned miserably right from the get-go. And yeah, and then I just kept on going in that, even after that, because I knew the Lord had just I just felt a burning and a passion for this, and so that was, I just kept on going forward in it. And then I stumbled across Frank Viola on Twitter, and he had opened himself up to people my age who were in ministry, and he wanted to get to know them, and so I started talking with them. And then he had me read some of his books, and then after that, because I was kind of gelling with what he was saying, and he invited me to go to a conference in Orlando, and I went, and yeah, that was kind of the end of things.
Now, when you say your age group, what's that?
The 20s and 30s.
So are you in the 20s or 30s?
I'm in the 30s now. At the time, I was in the 20s.
Gotcha. So then Orlando.
Yeah. Yeah, that was...
So wait, what year was
that
Orlando?
Was 2010.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Threshold Conference. And then and so then after I got out, I was just mulling things over, and then...
Got out of what?
The conference, and then and so about a month later, it just really started hitting me. Just Florida, Gainesville, because that was where the only group I knew of was at the time. People who had met at the conference, and And then I was like, okay, I think I might need to move to Gainesville and be a part of this organic church.
Which is in Florida, Gainesville, Florida.
Yep, Gainesville,
Yes.
Florida, not Gainesville, Texas.
Right.
Or Georgia.
Or Georgia. But so then, I entered my last semester of seminary, and I thought it would be kind of fun to take. So I took an ecclesiology class. It turns out it was the exact opposite.
Not fun.
It was not fun.
Okay.
Because it was basically, I had two opposing views going on within me. And so it was like this constant, like, rubbing and friction and, like, uncomfortableness. And then I just really just had to just nail, like work things out, work through things to, I guess, basically go with, like, where the Lord wanted me and what I perceived was the correct pathway to go. And so, after, thanks to the help of certain people and their timely comments and a close friendship, I just kind of just went forward with my plan to give up my career as being a pastor as soon as I graduated seminary, and then moved down to Florida to be a part of an organic church.
Okay, so let's fill in some holes for people.
Sure, yeah.
Paint some pictures. You were born a young child, or a small child.
Yeah.
Where was this?
I was born in Idaho, and I lived in Oregon for most of my life.
Okay.
Then I went back to Idaho for school, Kansas City.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Where was seminary?
It was in Kansas City, Missouri.
Gotcha. All right.
And so I just worked my way east across the country. Yeah.
They said go west, young man.
That's true. I just didn't listen to that.
It was the reverse Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
You've already been to Oregon.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so you moved to Gainesville, Florida, because we are in Texas, and you say Gainesville, Texans are going to think Gainesville, Texas. I mean, yeah. So you moved to Florida from Missouri.
I did.
Which you'd moved to Missouri from Oregon.
Essentially, yeah. And so then I was there with that group for...
Hang on a second.
Oh, yeah?
I find this an interesting part of your story is that you have a college degree. You have a master's. And yet, what do you end up spending your first couple of years in Gainesville doing?
My first year, I was a barista at Starbucks. That was my job during seminary, and I just transferred down there, and that was what I did.
Stuck with it.
Yeah.
They use red cups right at Christmas.
They do. Yes, they do.
I think that's really beautiful because it's testimony to the value you placed on what the Lord was calling you to do, the convictions that He was starting to birth within you, and of what His life was calling you to. And so, you were willing to lay down not only the expected course of your life, but the course you had essentially earned with your, that you had worked and earned college, with the schoolwork you had done to be obedient to Him and to take what many people would think would be a position far below you, so that you could be obedient to Him. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah. That is. Yep.
And not only that, I had it was at the time it was a scholarship with conditions that I did not fulfill the conditions of because I didn't enter ministry after going to seminary.
Whoa,
and
really?
So I ended up taking I tried to fix it so that it would work and so that I could have it continue as a scholarship and so I wouldn't have to pay it back. But then the Lord's like, no, not going to have that. You have to move down on my terms, not what would make you comfortable. And so I took on additional student loans basically to move down.
Yeah, man.
Wow. Which a lot of people would say would be wasteful.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
it wouldn't be wise.
It's not wise.
Wasteful. The Lord wouldn't ask you to do something that, but yet He does.
He's obviously put you on this one path. Why would He take you off that path?
Yep.
For something less.
Yep.
So, especially a path that seemed more wasteful.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that can't be the Lord.
What? So you're in your 20s at this point. What's your family thinking about all this?
Well, my parents thought I was joining a cult. They trusted me enough. Yeah, they
Pass
trust
me my Kool-Aid.
they trusted me enough. They're like, okay, we don't think he's making a terrible choice, but it sure sounds like he's joining a cult. But they came down and visited
Yes, they did.
Several times,
Yep.
and they really enjoyed their experiences there.
We always enjoyed it when they came.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so then what were some of the, maybe one or two of the bigger paradigm shifts the Lord worked in your life during your time in Gainesville?
I guess one of them would be just through one of the roommates that I have when I first moved there. I was moving from a really intellectual kind of mindset to a much more practical and learning to, I guess, focus on the Lord, just in everyday things and not be kind of wrapped up in my thoughts and trying to get things organized in the way that I think they should be.
Yeah.
And I guess also just the whole process with a group, learning how to live by the Lord's life, because it's such a big change from learning to live by your own effort and doing things under your own strength. And I mean, I'm even still just going through that now. It's a constant journey, learning how to just lay down our own expectations and our own will and desires for things for the Lord.
Yeah. Yes, amen.
So when did you move to Florida?
That was the very end of December 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was there until February of 2016 when I left to move back to Oregon because my father had been sick, and I was going to help out with my family and help take care of him. So
you moved here almost a year later.
Yep. Yeah, I was
A year and a month or so later.
Yeah, a year and a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So
You moved here when?
beginning of April of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean that year gap between Florida and here is, if my time in Gainesville was definitely instrumental, but that year was even more so because, there are just things that you just don't recognize in yourself until the Lord, takes you out of a situation you've kind of grown comfortable, and then being in a really difficult situation with no, I could depend on my family, but just didn't have the close relationships like I did in Gainesville, and so then it was just it's just I have to just depend on the Lord, and that's all I can depend on, and so that season was difficult, but the Lord is through that season has been working some deep things through that. So,
Amen.
Yeah. But so then
I have a question because I remember we left Gainesville in 2014.
Yes.
And we came back for a visit, and we had lunch with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it being really interesting because I had never known this the whole time we were in Gainesville together. But at that lunch, you kind of explained to us how you had moved to Gainesville and really spent the first, season there more with the idea of this is the right way to do church.
Mm-hmm.
And in between, I don't really know exactly when it happened, but definitely while we were gone, the Lord was kind of reshaping that and showing you this is about His eternal purpose and not about the right way to do church.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember that lunch because RC and I left, and I was like, I would have never known that, in the beginning, Mark's kind of mindset was this is the right way to do church. I just assumed he was, he understood this is about the eternal purpose. But I wanted to ask you about that process and kind of the Lord walking you through that.
Yeah, that was. I don't exactly remember when kind of the switch was flipped. In fact, to be honest, a lot of my time in Gainesville is just a blur because I went into nursing school and was working during that time as well, so it was really, really busy. But yeah, I think it was just. I remember one moment after a meeting, and it was like I almost felt the Lord like posing a question to me, like. It was almost like do you love me for like who I am? Like why do you love me? And it was just it was like kind of just this I don't know like probing like why I was there almost. And so and I think that was I just remember that moment, but it was just I think it was just over time it was realizing that like that was kind of the perspective I'd gone down with like this is the right way to do things, but it just slowly changed over time.
I think that's beautiful. I know that it changed for RC and I in a similar way, you know. So yeah, it's awesome.
I had a question that kind of backtracked a little bit about just being in Gainesville and stuff, and things we talk about here on the show, but sometimes it's hard to put into words, but how would you describe body life, and what would you say it's meant to you?
I mean, it's wonderful and glorious, and can be terrible and heartbreaking at the same time. So, yeah, it was. I mean, my time in Gainesville is an incredibly special time that I was just. Being able to share the Lord with saints and just throughout the week, and then and just coming together to express what the Lord's been doing, and like some of the meetings where we just kind of left it up to the Lord to kind of direct the course, then having the themes from separate people who hadn't met during the week woven together as just to show. Like it was the Lord showing that this is something He was doing in everyone all at the same time. So
One Spirit.
Now, when you say hadn't met throughout the week, what do you mean by that?
So I mean, practically there was 50 adults in Gainesville. I think within the first 6 months that I got there, and then. So you can't practically see everyone during the week. So
you're talking about the large whole group meeting throughout the week.
Yeah, so like I don't get a chance to see every brother during the week, and so there's maybe a few people I was able to get together with, but it
wasn't that nobody was meeting together.
Of course not.
Okay.
No, it's just that the people that there were people who the Lord was speaking similar things to, and they hadn't been together during the week planning it. So it's just evidence of the Spirit. Being
I ask because 90% of Christianity doesn't understand that. They think it's a weekly meeting, and so when He says they haven't been meeting throughout the week or haven't met throughout the week, it's one particular mindset of. Oh, so they don't get together at all. When we've been talking about getting together and all the time and daily and all this, and so that's not what He's meaning. He's meaning corporately meeting everybody together throughout the week. But saints will meet together, do life together throughout the week, and that's how the Spirit speaks to everybody. Because there is still a gathering of saints throughout the week.
I actually like that he mentioned that the reality that. Practically, it's not always feasible for everybody to be together at the same time, but there's what we would say pockets or different saints getting together throughout the week, which is the normal Christian life.
Yes.
And the meeting, whatever it may be or however it may look, is a really small percentage. I think we did it like in terms of time, like 0.01 something percent. And we put all of our eggs into that when it's a life. And so that's helpful.
The normal Christian experience is all the eggs to be in like 0.1% of our life. And what we're learning is that no, that's not where all the eggs go.
A couple of things I really appreciate about this awesome brother, just being in body life together in Gainesville. He was quick to not to I guess, invite himself over. But he'd be like, hey, can I come over? I'll bring my own food or whatever. It was like, hey, I know you guys are going to eat, and I'd love to be hanging out with you.
He initiated.
Don't feel like you have to, bring out the best china and stuff. I just want to be around you guys. And so he would grab something or bring whatever he was going to eat, and he would come and just hang out. And we would eat and then hang out and just whatever. So that was always awesome that he'd do that.
He's done that here.
That's great. Yeah. Which is a great point to bring up because we had saints who had moved to be a part of this, but then get their feelings hurt because nobody ever invited them to anything.
Yes.
Or at least that was what they would say and feel. Where it's like this is the life of the Lord. You have to put something into it as well, some effort. So Mark initiated.
Yes.
It's like, oh well, I'll invite myself over, or because if you haven't noticed yet, listeners, I don't know that you could. I don't know. Mark is a single brother, and so it's just him out there in Gainesville. So he's ingratiating himself to other people, to other saints, and where a lot of our other saints we've interviewed have been married couples and such. And
We've interviewed 2 other single brothers.
I said a lot. I didn't say all.
I think the other.
We haven't interviewed any single sisters.
That's true.
We're all the single ladies. Mark wants to know.
I don't think that's true, RC.
That's a whole nother show.
It is.
I think another piece of that picture is also even with school and work, and for some spouse and kids and all that, is making yourself open, clearing your schedule as much as you can for those opportunities to get together, whether it's more planned or spontaneous, and just to kind of have that in your mind all the time and be like ready and open for those times.
Yeah.
So you were saying you were really busy, Mark. It's kind of a blur, and yet what people remember is that you initiated and got together a lot with people.
You did.
Yep.
So what I was trying to say with the whole inviting himself to places is because being a single brother, he lived with other brothers, and he didn't necessarily have a place to invite people to.
Right.
So it wasn't that he wasn't willing to host; it was he didn't necessarily have the capabilities to do so.
And he has some pretty mean unleavened bread making skills too.
He does.
Does he now?
It's true. I was the go-to person in Gainesville.
The secret Marc Hardy recipe.
Yes.
He's also an avid game player.
I was going to say.
And the parents love him
Yeah.
because he invites the kids over for game days.
Yeah, like board games and
Yeah.
They're not video games.
And he invites the kids over for video games, but he'll play the board games with them.
Yeah.
So now you're here in Gainesville. You said before you're a nurse. So are you nursing?
No, he's not nursing.
I was going to make a meet the parents joke, but no need to. I am picked up a nursing job out here, and I've been just working at that for a few months and kind of learning the ropes there. And I wasn't able to, work as a nurse for the time I was taking care of my dad, just due to different reasons, and so it was just kind of just getting back on the horse, and it's a little bit anxiety inducing, but it was just trusting the Lord to provide what I needed, because moving out here, I didn't have any roommates that I could just immediately move into their place with, and just had to find my own place and just kind of start like living on my own, and basically kind of rebuilding my life a little bit, and so just like trusting that the Lord would provide through this job and would supply all my needs.
Yeah. Yes and amen.
Yeah.
So you moved out here without a place to live and without a job.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
In fact,
Yes.
And you're still ticking.
I'm still ticking.
Yes.
In fact, I didn't have a job or even the hint of a job offer until the morning I was leaving, and I got a phone call, and they set up a phone interview and all that.
So you did have a way of getting housing when you got here. You didn't have to live in your car.
Yes.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not encouraging people to just up and leave their life willy-nilly and drive someplace and be like, hey, Lord, take care of it.
Right. Well, it's got to be from the Lord.
Right, that was my point.
Okay. And when it's from the Lord, He will provide that.
Yes.
Yep, and
I'll provide RC's address. But
And I'll provide Andrew's phone number.
see how this works.
yeah, in fact, all three of the places that I potentially had to crash were booked the weekend that I was supposed to get here, and so I ended up having to spend a few more days, or rather, getting to spend a few more days with the Saints in Oklahoma City, and then I had some family out here. They're willing to put up with me for a few weeks while I got situated, and
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So make your point, babe.
That was my point. Sometimes the Lord does call us to do things, and He hasn't put all the pieces in place yet, and we move in faith, but sometimes He has us do the work beforehand and have a place to live and have a job to go to. And so I just wanted to make that clear. We're not encouraging people to just up and move willy-nilly. We're encouraging them to stay in step with the Lord.
Right. It's not a pattern or a method that
Right.
you got to follow, but it's a calling of the Lord. And so our encouragement is, if you feel Him calling you somewhere where you don't have something already in place, that might still be Him, and it's okay. But if He's calling you to prepare before you go anywhere, that's okay too. That's Him as well.
And if you're married, you and your spouse should be on the same page.
Yes.
Period. So if you want to leave with nothing in place and your spouse is saying, no, I want to wait until we have a job, then you need to wait.
Even if you're
And
in the
continue
right.
to seek the Lord in regards to that. Yeah.
Yes.
You got that, Mark?
I did get that. I'll remember that. Put that.
He's taking
in my-
notes.
I mean, okay, so we've been talking about Austin, what the Lord's doing, and we've talked to people who have moved places. So I think it's pretty evident that we have all benefited from being obedient to the Lord when He has called us to move. So it's quite possible that there's a lot of our listeners who these thoughts are going through their minds.
Sure.
That's
Right.
why I think it's important to make these clarifications. If we weren't talking about this stuff, then there'd be absolutely no reason to bring this up. But this has been a big part of kind of the message the Lord has been speaking, and
And it was more just to encourage people that they're not crazy if they're feeling led a particular
Right.
direction.
Yes.
And to just, if you feel led in a particular direction, follow it with the Lord. Seek the Lord. Know the Lord in it.
Yes.
That was really, it's just you're not crazy. He's asked other people to do these same things.
Yeah.
All right, Mark. You have moved and moved and moved again.
Mhm.
Why? Is he really that worth it?
Absolutely, absolutely, he is.
So you do it again?
Hopefully not for a while, but but sure. Yep.
I'm thinking that he's honest. He said, not for a while, but if the Lord wants it more sooner than a while, then he'll go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how comfortable you are with talking about this, if you want to, in regards to your father and what you saw of the Lord in that entire experience. If you're not, that's okay.
No,
I just know what you shared with me was super encouraging.
yeah. So my father had pancreatic cancer, and it was. Yeah, so just kind of when I moved out there is in time when I sensed that it was, because I was 3,000 miles away, that it was just time to head back, and just because it seemed like my parents needed me, and just felt like that was kind of the next step, and then just I was just there, and my dad was capable for a lot of the time, but there was just had to step in and use my nursing skills. So just practically, I was able to take something off my mom's plate and off my family's plate so they just didn't have to worry about that. But then, just it was hard. It was kind of a lonely time, just like being in the wilderness. And so as I said earlier, is just that learning to. Or at least start to learn to depend on the Lord for my daily supply, and then when things he started going downhill, and they told us he had weeks left. Then it was just really like disheartening, but just had to just continue to depend on the Lord and just rely on His strength and His peace to sustain me, and so especially when he became bedbound essentially, and I took over using my floor nursing skills and was positioning him and repositioning him, and because that's something that's just difficult to do when you don't know the best way of going about it. But so that was just exhausting on every possible level, and so I just had to keep turning to the Lord and depending on Him, and I just had this constant sense of comfort and peace through that whole time. But I think one of my favorite moments during that time that I'll always remember was my father just said at one point that you and your brother have been such a joy to me, and so here I am, 30 years old, living with my parents, don't have a job, gave up a job to move there, and so kind of feel almost worthless naturally, but to have my father express that to me, it was just it was a beautiful moment of the father's love, and
Yes and amen. That's really
so. Yeah, and so then he passed at the end of December, and so I'd planned to stay there for a while to just help out my mom with the practical things, and then just as soon as this radio program started up and I started listening to it, I kind of just got this sense, kind of a leap for joy, when I was probably also an excitement of just hearing people I know
in the Lord.
Yeah, but it was like, I think I'm supposed to move to Austin. Why Austin of all places? There's so many other groups out there,
right.
And it was like, why Austin? Sorry, no offense. No. I just had never thought I would ever live in Texas, and so so it was hard, but I felt this was the direction to go, so I did take the practical steps that kind of opened the door, and I just had to trust that the Lord would take care of my mom after this.
Losing her husband.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, I know that was a really big part of it for you.
Yeah, because it was like, should I leave her? Should I not leave her? And so, I was just felt this was the direction to go, and my mom trusted me in that, and then
Awesome.
And here you are.
And here I am.
Yeah.
A full-blown Austinite.
Yeah, we're definitely blessed by your decision to come share life with us too. And we were so excited when we found out that might be a possibility, and then when it actually happened, it was like, this is awesome.
Yep, glad to be here.
Cousin Brother Mark.
The Hardys and the Hardy.
That's right.
So, all right.
If your last name is Hardy.
Yeah.
The Lord maybe. No.
There's more of your people in Austin, Texas.
There's more of your
Now, the conference registration and all of that is closed, but Mark will be at the conference for those who will be there, and you'll get a chance to say hello, spend time with him, meet him, however he may be available.
Right.
Yeah, I'm planning on taking work off on Friday, so I'll be there for the whole thing.
Okay. Nice.
Well, I was going to say, for those who would really like to visit with Mark, his Snapchat is...
Snapchat?
Well, isn't that what all the kids are doing these days?
I don't know.
The youngins.
And the youngins, Facebook and
Really?
Twitter.
Is MySpace still a thing?
Check out his MySpace page.
And put that on tape.
This whole show's on tape.
That's right.
All of them.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
That's good.
A-track.
555. Nope. 867-5309.
867. Yes.
What?
It's a song.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
867.
I thought you were like,
She's like, stop giving up people's phone numbers. I'm like, he started with 555. We don't know. 555. 555. 5555.
Niner. Is there a niner in there somewhere?
Or you're speaking on a walkie-talkie.
See, Mark is also good with movie quotes.
Yes.
He knows movies, and so he picked up my niner thing.
Yes.
He knew where I was coming from. All right. So, yeah. You can also contact us on tothesaints.com and all that good stuff.
Yes.
Listen to this interview and other interviews and other programs and all that good stuff. Yes?
Yes.
Hey, and, well, all right, till next time. Thanks for listening to The Saints. This is Arson.
This is Andrew.
This is Tyrone.
This is Allison.
This is Carrie.
And this is Bridget.
And this is Mark.
All right, next time.